I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that about why you think it happened, other than the fact that it's something that could happen in any situation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't have a necessarily concrete, I guess, theory, but I mean, it's interesting how much more shocked the American fans, I think, seem to be than fans, say, maybe in Europe or elsewhere. And I wonder if American sport perhaps hasn't had as many kind of, I suppose, cheating controversies in recent times as sport elsewhere. I mean, there's been a lot of that. I mean, in football here, there was a massive controversy a couple of years ago in Europe where in the Italian league, which is the top league in Italy, all of the top teams were found to be in collusion in fixing not just individual matches, but essentially fixing the result of the league, and
Oh
bribing
wow.
officials and getting smaller teams to throw games and all the rest of it. It was colossal, and it resulted in essentially one of the top Italian teams being relegated like 3 divisions down and being forced to sell all their best players and all the rest of it. And there have been scandals like that in sport around the world. Quite a lot. I mean, cricket had some scandals recently, and then even more recently, the world #1 player in snooker. For those of you guys who don't know what snooker is, it's basically a more sophisticated and skillful version of pool. But the #1 player in snooker, a Scottish man by the name of John Higgins, was caught on video by an undercover tabloid reporter offering him a bribe to throw frames in a match. And he was offered. He was actually offered a substantial sum of money, something like £200,000, which I think would be like $300,000 now, or something like that, to throw a couple of frames. Not even an entire match. I suppose the effect of Starcraft would be if you were playing a best of 5. You would actually, to be honest, you'd have to be playing a best of 11, and you would throw maybe 2 of those sets in that best of 11 at a particular moment. So. He was offered money to do that by an undercover reporter, and he accepted it. And this is a guy who's got millions and who's in the prime of his career. Right? He's not in a slump or anything. He's the world #1 ranking. He's untouchable pretty much right now, and he's got everything going for him. And now his basically his life is ruined because he got caught, and no one wants anything to do with him. And he's probably going to face a lengthy ban. But I think in Korean StarCraft, I think all the ingredients are there. I think the fact that players' careers are so short. I mean, the whole, in a normal sports person's career is considered to be quite short, and they have to make hay while the sun shines, while they've got the fitness, and that lasts about 10 years in a lot of sports. In StarCraft, it seems to be 2 or 3 years that players seem to be at their peak, and even those 2 or 3 years, they certainly don't make enough money to retire on. And to be set for life. And I think that's one of the sad things about esport. But to get to, I suppose, a level where you can get that, you need to have integrity and build the sport up to that level. And I think, StarCraft is one of those sports that for that very reason is vulnerable, because it's so small, because the money isn't really there. And, players who work very hard, I guess, maybe feel disappointed or frustrated or whatever that they're going to have to end up getting regular jobs shortly afterwards. It's sad. But corruption, I mean, I think it's a cultural thing as well. Corruption is almost a way of life in Asia. And I'm not being racist, because I've lived a lot in Asia. I do have Asian roots partly. And, for example, in India, bribe taking is par for the course. Now, funnily enough, it's been stamped out of sport at the highest level. Cricket, for example, they don't have it because there's so much money in cricket now that any player would be an idiot to take a bribe. It's just not worth it. But there is a lot of corruption in India, and there is a lot of corruption in Asia. There really is, and it's par for the course. So, culturally speaking, I think when you feel everyone's kind of looking after themselves as a player. I mean, if you look at the context of it, the idea was, well, we'll throw a couple of meaningless games that don't really matter, because from my guess, they all seem to be games in the Pro League in not significant matches and not significant games, and only a handful of them. So I guess they thought, well, we'll throw a couple of games, they don't really mean that much anyway, and we'll get a little bit of money on the side, it won't be a big deal. But of course, the problem is once you call into question integrity in a sport, even once, it shatters that aura, and it shatters that feeling of trust that is there between the fan and the player. And I think that's a big problem. And that's what's happened with this. And I'm sure the players who participated are deeply regretting their actions. Even Xavier, I'm sure he's regretting it. But yeah, I guess that's what I think about all of that.
Yeah, what's Xavier gonna do now? I mean, because he was big enough, involved enough that, like, how can any employer ever trust him? Like, regardless of if he tries to do something in esports or not.
Right.
Like, how could anyone
well,
ever trust him?
Well, it's a PR thing as well, you know? Right,
Yeah.
it's a PR thing as well. I mean, he could have gone into Starcraft 2 commentary or something, but I mean, in Ireland, for example, we have a couple of sports here that no one else plays in the world. We've got Gaelic football, although the Australians play a form of rugby that's kind of similar to it, but Australians are more into murdering each other than actually playing sport in rugby. But anyway, we have they've got they call it Australian Football League or something. But we've got Gaelic football and we've got hurling over here in Ireland, and those are sports that really only are played here. And the guys who become big in that, the sports stars, they don't live off that. They can't have a career as a sports person because it's just not financially viable. Even though those sports are big here, we don't have the population and the economy to support it. But effectively, those guys, when they quit playing at 30, 32, 33, they all get picked up as jobs as CEOs of top companies, and they have jobs in boardrooms in top companies because of the PR attraction, because of the sports attraction, and because a lot of the corporate world is still run by guys like us who love sport, and the idea to have someone in their company on their boardroom who's that charismatic and who's that reputation is very alluring and very magnetizing. And that's the kind of stuff that you can still go for. Even in sports where you may not necessarily retire off the sport itself, there's always someone waiting around the corner to offer you a job. But Xavier, I think he's destroyed his reputation now, in that it's going to be very difficult for even people who are diehard fans of his to do that, to offer him anything. So, he might be a bum on the street in a couple of years' time. You never know.
I don't know. I guess maybe. Yeah, we'll see. I could see him maybe someone hiring him for some non-PR job. Hiring him as a consultant or something like that for game development.
Right.
Something along those lines, because he still does have the knowledge, but I don't know. I think the thing that shocks me the most about it is just the impression that I have of the gamers. To me, they're these naive, these nerds who just play games all day, and they seem very, they just want to play video games, and they're doing it for a living, and so it's most shocking because I see them as being these kids that don't know any better. In a way, I guess kids might even be more susceptible to that kind of thing, but I don't know. I guess it's just the stereotype that I have that makes me so shocked that it happened, especially players like Huashin, who...
Huashin surprised me a little bit.
He was always very mannered, very well mannered. Wasn't cocky. He was kind to other players. He seemed to have some honor, in his dealings with like MSL selection ceremonies where people trash talk each other. He was always a good kid. And so when he comes out and he's being unethical, that's a shock. And to a lesser extent, Up Magic, who I'm a little bit biased because I liked him a lot as a player, but he also, he carried his team. He was kind of the leading edge of of Eastro. He was kind of their support. He was their veteran, and so I wouldn't have expected him, just because he's such a crucial figure to his team, to be doing something like that as well. It's just it's just surprising. Go, I could see.
Well,
it
who didn't surprise me? The twins. The twins didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
I have to say, I wasn't surprised about the twins.
I wasn't either. They have been so inconsistent for so long, and I don't know. Well,
there's just something odd about them.
I can't say I don't know why
weird.
it didn't occur to me, but now that it's come out, it's oh well, yeah, that makes sense for them because they've always been so good and so bad at the same time.
Yeah, you can understand to a degree, I suppose, with someone like Up Magic and Huashin as well. These are players who were never going to make it to the big time and who never made the big bucks. The sad reality of Korean Starcraft is that bar the very top player in the top teams, you're talking SK Team 1, I'm not even sure if OGN have that level of pay or power. You're talking SK Team 1, CJ, I guess we made even, if you count the number of players who are actually earning, I guess, six-figure salaries in terms of dollars. Very, very limited. Very few. Xavier, only the players who won championships, who won OSLs and MSLs. And I don't even know if Mind was making that level of pay. And a lot of these guys who are kind of, A-team players, but not S-class players necessarily, I think they wouldn't have been making that much money at all. They would have been making maybe the kind of money you would make doing a desk job somewhere. And that's certainly not enough to retire off of or anything off of. So you could understand that these guys, where they might have been vulnerable and susceptible. And someone like Xavier, I think he's just a maverick. I think he's just
A maverick.
A law unto himself, really. I know it's a very positive word to use in this situation. It's probably the wrong word, to be fair. It's too positive a word to use in this situation.
Well, he was.
I guess a better word to use would be to say he's mercurial. I think that's probably more appropriate.
He was, he was a ringleader. He actually went out and used his influence to try and convince other pro gamers to take money. So, yeah, I mean, at least he.
By the way,
he was the bonjour of game throwing.
Well, but by the way, just speaking of Mavericks, I know a lot of you guys might hate me for this, but I just wanted to say once and for all, Sarah Palin sucks. Sarah Palin sucks. You heard it here. I cannot stand her. So, and she is not a Maverick. Sorry.
That's all right. That's kind of a random situation. That's why I laughed when you used the term Maverick, because especially in the States, Maverick is a term that unless you're a basketball fan, is
I
closely associated with the McCain campaign. So.
Right. I actually have a lot of respect for McCain, but not for Palin.
I have respect for McCain, yes. But anyway, back to Starcraft.
Let's not get into politics.
Yeah, we'll be going for a while longer. Yeah, and the other thing is that a lot of the players, like you were saying about how they weren't necessarily making a lot of money, a lot of them were looking at their careers and saying, you know what, I think I've had my peak. I don't think I'm gonna make it back in. I might as well make, like you were talking about hay and stuff, might as well make some money, through this other method while I can, because a lot of them, like Huashin, he'd gotten into the round of 8 a couple times and he just never managed to make it past, and he was kind of going into a slump. Although I don't know when these games took place, actually, to be honest, but like Luxury had gotten an MSL title, and then he kind of fallen off, and so maybe he was figuring, alright, well, I'm not going to be able to get back to the MSL title level, so maybe they were feeling bad because of that, so I don't know. But Up Magic was in a slump. He had definitely met his peak and gone out of it. Yellow Arnak, though, I mean, I can see how he'd be involved, but he had just gotten a silver medal the previous season, so that's kind of weird, along the paradigm that I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand.
But I mean, yeah, you're right.
You can understand
like
what the situation these guys live in. They live in
Justin,
these dorms with no access to girls and right.
Gogo and Justin were never going to go anywhere, so you're right about that.
I always knew that Justin Kidd was rotten.
What made you say that?
I don't know. I don't know. I just took a very strong dislike to him from day one. Ever since I saw Reach beat the crap out of him in a game, I just didn't have time for Justin.
I always disliked Gogo. I never liked him, and I could never come up with a good reasoning. I'd be like, man, Gogo, such a jerk, and people would be like, why do you say that? And I'd be like, I don't know, but he seems jerky to me. So now I feel justified. Yeah, Justin, he's the guy, by the way, that had all the stupid names, Bifrost and Casey name and the Marine, and just was kind of a dope in general. So not
exactly. That's why I couldn't stand him. Right.
And he was a horrible player too. He's 44%.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't come up with an original name. He was.
Yeah. So not too sad. Did you see Justin go?
I can't believe someone would pay him to throw a game. I would have thought you would have had to pay him to win a game. It's like, I mean, what kind of betting, gambling monsters are these? Dude, let's find that guy with, like, the 44% win rate and, like, pay him to throw a game because, everyone's going to bet on him to win, dude. I mean,
yeah. No, it's
come
true.
on.
Like, that was kind of remarkable because, in order to be in a position where it makes sense for someone to pay you to lose, you have to be favored to win. You have to be favored to win in order for that to be a good bet or a good thing to pay you for. But Justin would never have been in that position where he'd be favored to win. Gogo very rarely would have been in a position where he'd be favored to win. Although who knows how far this stuff went back. I guess there may have been a
I don't know,
talk
maybe it was
about-
one of those games where they paid Xavier to lose, but because he was up against Justin, they also had to pay Justin to win. Because it wasn't just enough for Xavier to try and lose the game himself. They had to make sure that Justin wasn't a retard, and didn't manage to come out somehow lose a game that Xavier was trying to throw away.
Oh, see, here's what it was. Justin was getting a lot of wins in the minor league, so someone must have paid him to throw a minor league game.
Wow.
Which is basically like the B team league that they had on the side, which no one really cares about. So anyway, it's pretty sad. I think the scene will probably get over it. I don't know exactly what's going on I don't know how Koreans are reacting to it. A lot of people in the foreign scene though seem to be disappointed, but I don't see anyone giving up. I don't see anyone saying, "Oh, that's so stupid. I can't believe this happened. I'm giving up on esports." No, everyone that I know seems to be saying, "Well, that was tragic, and I hate the players that were involved, but it doesn't seem to be in the minds of foreigners implicating the entire industry at this point." But like the OGN commentators were saying, Team Liquid actually subbed the OGN commentators doing a talk about it. It comes down to the sponsors, where if the sponsors see this as bad enough that they won't sponsor the leagues in the future, then it doesn't matter what the fans think.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm sure what the sponsors think a lot is down to what the fan perception is, and if they feel that it's, I mean, Tiger Woods got the sponsors back pretty quickly, considering, and but I think that was a different scenario. He didn't actually cheat, so although well he did, but not in the sense that you would typically consider cheating. But right, exactly. Staying well away from Tiger Woods. But yeah, I think it's irrelevant anyway, because I think things are going to transform. Starcraft 2 is going to take over, unless it turns out to be completely crap at the competitive level, which signs are that it won't be, because you've got Blizzard behind it. So I think this is all going to be moot. Blizzard are going to run the game, and I think they're going to run it with an iron fist, hopefully. And I'm sure, I mean, this is as you said so eloquently, this is human nature, and I'm sure there will be scandals in the future. But hopefully there will also be heroes like Boxer and Flash.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Savior. I've never been a fan of Savior, so I know a lot of people are disappointed by that. But I don't put Savior on the same level personally as Boxer and Nada and Uve and those kind of classics. So at the very least, none of them was involved as well, and they were pretty shocked too. Again, they interviewed Uve and Boxer at the end of that thing with the OGN commentators, and they were like, "WTF? I can't believe this happened." So I think StarCraft still has its heroes.
Yeah, Savior. I mean, that's the sad part about Savior. Is Savior pissed on their legends. He really did. It was up to him to carry the mantle and to have the dignity, and he sadly he didn't. But honestly, I really wasn't shocked when I heard Savior was involved. I was not shocked at all, because he never came across as being the nicest guy on the planet.
No.
Boxer's the kind of guy you can have a beer with. I'm not sure you can have a beer with Savior without getting into a fist fight afterwards over girls or something.
I think he actually did have a beer or some liquor actually with some people at BlizzCon last year.
Cool.
Yeah, there's some video of it somewhere online, I think. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this scandal. I think we filled up enough time for a couple of anti-spoiler videos at the end of the series. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about the series?
No, GG Flash, and I really hope he gets another shot at that double whammy, because I think it was Jaedong who had that shot last time around. Was it? Not last time, but maybe the time before last. I know someone had a shot last time around, or came close to having a shot last time around at both titles, and weren't able to get over the line.
I don't recall.
I thought it was Jaedong.
I'd have to look it up here.
Yeah.
I know that I'm pretty sure no one has actually done it where they've.
Well, I would like either.
Oh well, yeah, Jaedong
or Flash to have.
No, you're right. Jaedong had an opportunity.
Yeah, that's
he was
true.
in the semis a couple seasons ago
Right.
when he was beaten by
Well,
Calm
Xavier had a
in the
shot as well in
semis.
that famous time where he lost 3-0 to.
So if that's what you're talking
Ah,
about,
right.
yeah, he
Okay.
ended up winning the OSL, but he got eliminated in the
Ah,
semis by
yes,
Calm
yes,
from
where
the
we expected
MSL.
him to take that.
And he was
Right.
all
Right.
Zerg for the final four of both leagues, and he was totally expected to kill
Ah,
everything. Um, but he didn't.
right.
So
Right.
almost all Zerg.
There you go. But yeah, I really hope one of these two guys, either Jaedong or Flash, get another shot at it and pull it off, because that would be the way to cap Starcraft Brood War. I think that would be the way to bring in the curtain. I really want to see someone achieve that. I
Yeah.
think that would be epic. So if that happens, I will definitely return to commentate.
Yeah, that would be some crazy stuff, and I'm disappointed it didn't happen this time. But there is one more season, and I don't see Flash having any trouble getting to at least the top. I don't see anyone being able to beat Flash or Jaedong next season either, and the brackets are usually set up in a way such that the top two are on opposite sides of the bracket, so they can both get to the finals again. So maybe we'll see a repeat next season.
Yeah, I think the other side of that is that if you look at a lot of young kids coming into esports or coming into StarCraft, I'm sure they would have been aware that StarCraft 2 is only around the corner, and maybe that's why we haven't seen a lot of new talent really emerge or burst onto the scene, because who wants to put a couple of years getting to the pro level in StarCraft only to have to relearn at StarCraft 2? Of course, I mean, a lot of the skills are transferable. I mean, you're not going to lose your APM overnight, and a lot of that will be transferable, but ultimately you still have to learn a new game by playing it and practicing it. And as we saw in Warcraft 3, it's not the players with necessarily the highest APM that dominate. I mean, you've had kind of players like Grubby from the Netherlands, who doesn't necessarily have the best APM around in the esports scene, but has still been the best player there for a while. So I think that's the other fascinating thing I want to see in StarCraft 2. How does Western skill compete with Korean skill? Will the Koreans dominate again? I think that's going to be a fascinating story to watch in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, and a lot of the teams are. I mean, the teams know that too, and you can tell they already have some of their players that they're focusing just on StarCraft 2. So I think the pro gaming teams are already kind of onto that as well, and that is why you don't see new talent coming up. And I think and I've said that for a while actually, that I think that's what's going to eventually cause things to really go over to StarCraft 2, is the fact that the new talent isn't going to be coming up. So eventually, things will fade in Brood War just because we won't have the new players coming up. I think we've probably seen our last round of rookies that come up into the scene. Like your Sky High, and you've got players like Snow is been doing well. Movie, they're kind of probably the last round, or Pure. Those kind of players are the last round of players that really have the opportunity, because anyone else who's starting into it now, who's just getting good enough that in a year or so they'd be at the top level, they're not going to have that chance really. So
right, and I guess that sort of reflects the stagnation in the scene a little bit as well. But GG guys, GG, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the series, and yeah, take care. GG.